Okay, I want to call the meeting to order. You ready, Bob? Okay. Call the meeting to order. It's 6:33. A roll call.
Peter Dunlop, present.
Malcolm White, present.
Sandy Slavin.
And Jim Gibberti, present. First on the agenda is reorganization of the board. What is your pleasure, people?
I nominate Jim, you stay on as chairman.
Second.
Excellent idea. I'm in favor.
All in favor? Okay.
Aye.
You've done a very good
Will you
job,
stay on
Ken.
as vice?
Sure.
I nominate Malcolm to stay on as vice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Sandy, would you go secretary?
No, but I'll go clerk.
Okay. I nominate Sandy as clerk.
It's a difference.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have minutes from the April 12th meeting.
I'm gonna back, can someone tell me the job of the clerk for this committee? I know what other committees do, but
Is to kind of fill in if we don't have camera, it's not working or something.
okay, so take minutes if take minutes if needed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's about it.
That's it.
Okay, because someone else does the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
Becky does the
And the
agenda.
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a low key. By comparison.
It's a good job.
Compared to other clerks,
Oh, yes,
yes.
I been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Okay, zippity-zoo, zippity-zoo. Okay, we want approval of the April.
I was 20 minutes late. Can I still make a recommendation to approve the minutes as presented?
Second.
Because you missed much, actually.
I'm fine with them. I'd make the motion, we accept the minutes of April 12th, 18 as presented.
And Peter seconded it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well done. Zippo. And now we've got an abatement. For abatement for
Meineke.
Meineke.
It's understanding that the EDU schedule goes back to 1996 and it hasn't been changed since
That's
then.
affirmative.
Is there any chance I can see what the abatement schedule is? Because it's hard to believe that Meineke has 8 EDUs because he has 8 bays. That there's a water usage that supports that. I'm just so confused, and I guess I heard several years ago when they keep coming up annually.
This came up once before.
Twice before,
To
three
the
times
selectmen.
before, and the selectmen also.
Yeah, because I'm trying to ask, what type of water does a Meineke muffler shop use that requires 8 bays?
So, to answer your
ADUs.
question, and I'll do my very best for you, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to answer
Go
your
right
question. So, when they do the EDU study, they look at water flow, one, and they also look at strength of product. One of the situations we have at that facility is if you take oil, gasoline, or whatever, and you wash it off your hands into the sink, it comes to us, that has potentials of hazard. So they factored all that in, and said, so each bay was worth 1 EDU that was done. So that's the facts and that's the policy we have. And so we can talk later about what the new guys are looking at. I think it's, we have a company looking at revising EDUs and being more, realistic, and we'll see what that looks like, and then the board can make their decision if they want to change EDUs. But this is an EDU policy. The policy states that all garages, in every garage, Sullivan's paying 8 EDUs for their bays. There are Midas is paying, I think, 5 for their bays. It's a town-wide policy, everybody's treated the
So
same.
back in 1996, there was determined that there was enough hand washing of oil and grease that would make their product output strong enough to
Absolutely.
require to be treated as a full EDU for each
Bay.
Bay.
And also, to take it one step further, at that time, everybody had drains that went to the sewer, and they had to have next to that what they call MCD separators. Over the years, all these garages disconnected them. They put the water out into the ground, it goes into the catch basin, which goes into our system, it goes to the ocean.
And
That
why
has
aren't
to be
we
revisited.
catching them and stopping them from putting their discharged water into our stormwater drains?
I don't do stormwater, and so it's a stormwater issue. I mean, I was
And
like
who
I
in,
mentioned,
who in town should be watching over, I would say conservation, right?
I don't know, I can't answer that question, but
Okay,
somebody needs to address
You
that.
mentioned that there was some study going on to review this EDU usage? Who's-
Ty and Bond was doing the water, and I'm not as optimistic as most, I don't think we're gonna get water anytime soon. So Ty and Bond has been charged to take the EDU schedule, and let's apply some sense to it, and they're doing that now. I hope to have it, when I talked to them last Friday, they said week or two, so anytime they come out, I'll give it to the board, have them in, and we can
All
review
right,
it.
so what we need to do shortly is to review the EDU schedule.
Absolutely.
I would
But
like to table
this
this.
This is old news,
Right.
but going forward, if we could give them something, it doesn't sound reasonable.
No, never
And
has.
I'm sorry, but who knows what has happened since 1996 for the type of grease and everything else in our people's hands? There must be a major improvement in the type of product being washed down the drain with your hand soap.
I don't know. I know that we have the same concept of hairdressers in the town of Wareham that don't have sinks and they don't have septic tanks supposed to catch it. And according to DEP, there's no change, they're still hazardous. And so when you're talking about oils, greases, gasolines, they're still hazardous, that doesn't change. And so we gotta go back to MDC tanks, separations, all that good stuff, to make sure that nothing impacts. We have a very sensitive biological process. We got some gas from born last year like to take us out. DEP gets involved. So we can arbitrarily say it's not fair, but there's conditions that are not fair to the ratepayers that have to pick up the cost of that type of thing. So you need to
So
review
you're
it before you.
expecting a review of the EDU schedule within the month?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I'll get
And
something,
we've contracted for them to do this?
yes,
And how long have they had the contract?
since the selectmen originally gave it to them, many years. Because their job is to do
3
water.
years?
At least that, maybe 4. When they were charged to do the water. And they've been trying to get water and all that for all these years, and I don't think we're gonna get water anytime soon. We're gonna change it to the water-based rate, which everybody it'd be more equitable for everybody. That hasn't happened, I don't see it happening in the future. We just have 3 governments that need to
Okay,
get along, so
But if
that's the
they were
issue.
charged for reviewing a process to charge by water rate, when did it move over to do an EDU
Very
schedule?
recently, probably a month ago, I called up Mike and said, Mike, do me a
Okay,
favor.
but we have no contract for them to make this change.
It's within the rate study, the rates all in the same contract.
Okay, so it's all part of that
Absolutely.
RFP,
RFP.
thank you,
It's all done.
RFP that was done some time ago.
That's right, they're under contract, we're expending monies that they're under contract to
You
do.
hit a stone wall with them.
I don't see it
It's not
happening,
gonna
so
happen.
we need to do something and this is
And
the
let me
only
just
avenue.
clarify, I said that it doesn't sound reasonable, but I really shouldn't comment till we see
I
their
was,
report.
What it's all about.
do you really expect it within the month?
I do.
Then I make a motion, we put this on hold till we see the study before we deny the abatement.
There's 2 things you need to be concerned about when you change this, because what Mike's looking at is revenues. We can make all the changes we want, and it affects the revenues that run the facility. We have a budget based upon our revenue. As we do abatements, we take from that money. All right, just so keep all that in mind when we make these policy changes, and when you're gonna make these policy changes and put them in
Right.
effect.
Un-
It's a big
Understand,
picture.
if
I
we
understand
reduce
that.
the abatement, we reduce our revenue. But we also have an issue where this is for past usage, correct?
Right, correct.
But what we can do is not retroactively change it, but let them know there could very, what we come up with is
Right.
tag bond change could very well modify something in the future, but not in the past. So
One way or the other.
I
For what-
second,
that's
I
right.
second tabling until we get the report.
Okay, motion's been made to table this, it's been seconded. In favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's 4 zip, table it. And then that, what? Okay. Guy, you're on stage. Can you handle it?
First of all, Mr. Chairman, May 17th, We had talked about the Warriors and the project, the grant that we've gotten, well, actually, I can't say that publicly, the grant that we applied for.
Right.
So they want to come present, because I said to them that we had some issues, we want to talk about cost, the whole 9 yards. They've requested May 17th. We're not meeting May 17th, because Dr. Garvin is in India, then he's flying to California, and in the very near future, his earliest date is May 17th to explain this. I'm asking if we can put him on agenda or a meeting, I don't know how to do that, but I'd like to have him come back so we can ask questions. You had some very good questions, we need to sit with him, talk with him, ask some questions, and see where we're taking all this. And so May 17th is the date that they have available. If it's not May 17th, it may get into the end of June. By then, the announcement will be out, we'll have to start think about getting on the contract, so it's just, I wanted to throw that out there and see how.
I don't think that's all we're dealing with, and we.
That's all we're
blah,
dealing
blah,
with.
blah. Do you?
Huh?
May, I don't mind.
I don't care, that's fine with me,
Do you?
we can do the 17th.
I can do May 17th.
Okay,
All right, put him down for that.
okay.
And tell me who this person is?
Dr. Garvin, it's the Water Warriors is the name of the company.
Oh, is the thing that has all the
The football.
Yeah.
the footballs? Oh, I think I said in that meeting, when he made the
You may
presentation.
have, you may
Yes,
have.
okay.
You may have.
Okay, we will have a May 17th meeting with Water Warriors as the main course.
Okay, so I just text them so they can make their plans, they're trying to make.
Um, we're gonna have to get a room,
I'll do that, I'll just tell her tomorrow.
okay, at 6:30?
Yes.
6:30 good for him?
That's fine, for him, yes.
Yep.
We're in the runnings for some grants here, and I want to show them what they are, and so everybody copy. And back page is from the federal government through the EPA, and one of the grants we're looking for the EPA is to do an analysis and the costs associated with moving the outfall to the Cape Cod Canal. So that particular grant is for $430,000, the grant's for $319,000, our cash match is $76,000, and it outlines it. And so as we move forward, this is just permission to move forward. We don't know if we're gonna get the grant, but we've been chosen to submit a full-blown application for the grant, and we're doing that. There's two other grants, the CZM grant to do a bypass for our pump stations. The three that we're gonna do resiliency, rebuild them. What we're looking to do is that there's a pipe coming out to the force main, and there's what we call a box. It's the valve body box, all the valves in there shut things off. We're gonna put a bypass so that if in any event we have a catastrophic failure, we can take and tap into that and bypass the pump station itself and move sewer right to there to the force main to the plant. If St. Narrows just totally failed, I'd have to run trucks forever. But if we put a bypass, this particular bypass, this grant's gonna give us money to put in, then we can bypass the plant and literally pump it out with a pump, a tag-along pump, or we can rent the pump or buy or whatever, so that's what that grant's for. We're also looking at lagoon. If you remember the last storm, we were putting, we were putting out sandbags, we were just about ready to breach and enter the river. So the other grant is to see if we can take the basins and add walls to them, to bring it up another 8 feet. So the problem is that we'd never have that again. And I'll explain to you a little later on why it's become an issue, a major issue. May 3rd storm, people probably realize or don't realize, we worked around the clock for many days to contain the water from going out raw sewer into the river. It was crazy, it was catastrophic, and it was nuts. And so we want to mitigate that. If it happened once, it's going to happen again.
Kai, do we have cash for these 3 grants if we get them?
Yes, I'll take it out of contractors. Yes. we have
Sorry,
cash.
out of which
I'll take it out of
account?
contractors, outside contractors.
So the grants here equate to, if we have to spend 105,000, ballpark figures I'm using now, not. And the grants would amount to 537,000. So
It's money that,
that's usually the first time we've had some grants that are practical.
I just think it's something that we need to look into.
As far as cost,
Yep.
In the, we all know about the infiltration and inflow study that we've been doing, and we've got an extension because of the March 3rd storms, and DEP wants that included. So I'm going to give you a draft summary of that report. The report's quite thick and extensive, and all this is backed up, and I'm giving you a summary.
I'm
You
sorry.
can have this.
Do we have to vote on giving permission to file for these 3 grants, or is that a given? Do we normally vote on submitting a grant?
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Okay.
Does everybody have one of these? Okay, so what this is just a summary of the wet weather impacts to the system, infiltration and inflow. And so infiltration is groundwater coming into pipes, holes in the pipes. Inflow is sump pumps, drain leaders, and any other source of water. In this particular storm we had, our biggest issue was sump pumps. They pumped like crazy. We couldn't stop the flow. It filled up the basins, 2 million gallons, and it just came crazy. We had to develop on the fly an emergency high flow plan with the DEP. Allowed us to go on the back end and throw that literally on the ground. So it didn't go to the river, and so we're in the process of cleaning that up and pump it back in. Now we're getting rid of the residual sludge. So we saw flows that we've never seen before, and the sump pumps just non-stopped. So in this report, it explains that. And so this is a draft, we're still working it, you'll see the final, you'll see the draft, but I want you to have it, I want you to understand it. This, and so
All right,
that,
guy who wrote the draft?
written by Bader Engineering.
Okay, Peter.
Yes, the Bader has the contract. The state, I don't know, let me explain this to you so you know. The state mandated that we do an I&I study, not just us, every treatment facility in the state of Massachusetts had to address infiltration and inflow. And then you had to hire a company to go out there, put meters, do pump run times, during storms, and we've been doing this for a year. And then you take all that information and you write into a report and you find out where your weaknesses are. And then you have to address your weaknesses. And that's what this report, this is a summary of that report. So you have a copy of that. And I got this the other day. And I have to finalize it and get it to the state. So if you look, what they identified, as you read that report, I have some key areas that were identified. And this is the ranking. I'm sorry, I only did a yellow one. I am so sorry. I did another one. So you'll see the rankings of the areas this report identifies.
Said the most recent basins.
Yes, the most March 3rd was the most recent data added into this, but it's been a year, so they took all the data and added in.
Yeah.
And if you look at this report, it's saying that Smith Basin, and so what basins are, so this is Smith Basin. So they're saying in the Smith area, we're getting a lot of sump pumps, and we're also getting some infiltration. And so this is an area that we have to attack. Report address how we go about it and what the costs are, about $800,000. You can do it any way you want. And then they identified.
Where is Smith Basin?
Swiss Beach.
Okay, thank you.
Swiss Basin handles Hamilton Beach, Plymouth, Pilgrim Ave, and all the outhouses around there. And the basin, you can see that in that basin, there's a marsh in the middle. And you can see these pipes run through marshes, into marshes, and through marshes, into the Ruggles pump station. And for clarity, this is the Smith pump station. See this circle? See this circle?
Yeah.
This is the Smith pump station right here. That's the Smith's pump station. And that pump station takes flow from all this area, it takes it from Ruggles, and it takes it all the way up Swiss Beach Road. It's quite a big basin, one of the biggest basins we have in the town. And it's just hammered. And the report says that on the storm event, this will see an extra 220,000 gallons a day. That's what that basin's doing. So it's something we have to address. And then the next basin, I'm trying to combine it, they talk about Onset Pier, South Water Street, which is right next to Onset Pier. Gosh, I keep getting my bearings. This one is, oh, this is North Boulevard. Did I bring Onset Pier? Oh, no. I thought I bought 3. Yes, I did. This is the Onset Pier. This is the Onset Pier Basin. And what we think the biggest problem there is not as much as sump pumps, but there are sump pumps, because you can see where I got the yellow between Point Independence and Eagle. All those there, we believe, are really hammering us, but those pipes are taking a lot of water because they're under the beach. The manholes are under the beach, and so we gotta attack it. This particular pipe is full of sand. It's a 12-inch pipe with 6 inches of sand. Where's the sand
Which
coming
one are you
from?
talking?
This one here. This one is Point
Okay.
Independence Yacht Club, pipe along the beach, Eagle, this is that house they just sold in the Point here, which goes to South Water Pump Station. Then that pumps into Onset Pier, and this pipe is a 15-inch concrete pipe that's deteriorated, probably in the same condition as the pipe that we see in Swiss Beach. And so it's taking tons of water, because remember, it's under the beach, it's in the water table. So these we have to get, so these will be lining and repaired, and we should do them in the 2020 budget year.
For this onset pier, you have it from the Point Independence Yacht Club to the point, then where does it go? I lost the yellow.
So the yellow gravities from here to, you see at the side of the bridge,
Yeah.
there's a pump station,
Yeah.
it goes.
So
I'm
that,
just,
okay, so I should put.
put a
make my
line,
yellow.
we're gonna investigate that, but I'm giving you the highlights
Thanks.
of where we think the greatest, like, this pipe here needs, this 1,000 feet that needs to be lined, it's in trouble. And this here, I believe, is 1,400 feet roughly, that needs to be lined, it's in serious trouble, so that's what I wanted to show you.
Have we looked at that to see how much sand is in there?
Yeah, we did, I put a
There's a
camera
lot-
in it. Oh,
There's a lot of
6
sand.
inches of sand.
Okay.
It's where it's hammered. And so it reduces our flow, and remember, that pipe there takes everything from the Nanamit area. It's gonna take all the flow. What we did is, because of the development at Bay Point, we stopped them from discharging to this point, so this pipe couldn't take it. We made them remove their force main down one more manhole and take it directly to South Water, because this pipe couldn't handle it, would have blew the pipe up. So it's something that we really have to address. And then the other one is the North Boulevard area. And this is North Boulevard, and this is the one that has all the 12th streets, 11th Street, 13th Streets, 10th Street, all in Onset. And the North Boulevard pump station is here on the point. I'm sorry, sorry, Jim, I don't know how I could figure that out.
I just drove through there today, I know exactly where it is.
Yep.
It's next to the playground.
So, yeah, right next to the playground. So this pump station, the water flow is incredible. We come at, I would say, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's flowing like it's the middle of the day. So either people in Onset are up 24 hours a day, or we have flow that's extended. And the other thing is, it's crystal clear. We're right now going to do salinity tests. We don't think it's sewer, it's not sewer, it's too clear to be sewer. Flows are too
So
high.
it's fresh water from,
Fresh water.
it's salt or fresh water from someplace, it's not,
We believe it's
it's
from
not
the,
product.
and no, it isn't, from the ocean, and then all these houses here. These are all clay pipes, 4-foot clay pipes. When we did the break on Central, those pipes are all weaving. Also, in this area here, we've got the clay pipes that are full of roots. The roots are all pregnant in the pipes, the roots are all in the joints. I have to make a decision, or we should make a decision whether we're gonna repair them or replace them. I've
How
talked to-
deep are these?
These are about 6 feet. So I've talked to a couple of contractors, and they say it may be wiser to replace them than it is to repair them. But we're looking at some technology, because we gotta cut the roots, and then we gotta line it. So some tools are being made, we're gonna try them and see. If we can line it, we will. If we can't, we'll have to replace them. So this is something we really have to look at. It's really, and the sad part is, for me, is 12th Street was just repaired. There's a 5-year moratorium. We may have to blow that moratorium up. So that's where we are with this. We're taking a lot of water, so it's a costly thing. So, and this all ties,
12th Street is just one of many streets in this area.
that's right, and they're all in trouble. I'm just saying for 12th Street because it's one, we discovered 12th Street, actually it was on our list, but other things started becoming higher priority. And we just kept dropping it because other things, as they come to light, they become more of a critical, critical pipe. So, and that's working strictly off this, what they find. So if you look at these, it says here that 80% of all our infiltration, how do I put that off?
No, it's me.
Okay, and 80% of all our infiltration comes from these particular things. So if you look at, see what on the side, the last column, it says 29%, 45%, 59%, 80.9% cumulative. Just these here, these basins that I've showed you, is 80% of our issue. The other ones you can see they're smaller percents. If you look, it's 4%, 3%, 2%. If you look at the percent of total inflow, it's 3%. You can look at the numbers, they're small relatively. These are high, 29, 16, 14, 13, and 8. These are the highest percents contributors. These we have to address.
South Water Street, the same issue as North Boulevard?
Yes,
A lot of fresh water?
a lot of fresh water. And a lot of grit, which is sand. So we know we're pulling and saying everything's coming into the pipes, we're pulling sand.
Take, putting the sand back on the beach. You know.
We could set a we just put it back, we could. We
We could try.
Like Hathaway's not that big a basin, is it? That whole-
Hathaway, no, it's not. But you think of
Where does
Hathaway.
that soil change though, Guy? When it turns to that glacial fill, boy, they have water problems over there. But somewhere it changes, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm not sure where the cutoff is, but it's funny because you can dig pure sand and you hit lead and you're in trouble. That till, I wanna say it comes by 13th and runs by, I believe it's part of the park area there, I don't, because there's a
I know
geology
it's
study on it,
down
it's
this
crazy.
way, I know
It's crazy, and so it's weird how it can be here and not right here. So when we're doing the Parkway development, they went down Indian Neck, and also they hit some glacier, it was incredible, all of a sudden it's blasting and all, boring, because when you bore every so often, you can miss something that's gonna
Yeah.
cost you tons of money, and it's just,
Well,
it's the
you
nature
hit
of
a
the
lot of
beast.
rocks on Oak Street.
It's just the nature of the beast, it's crazy, crazy.
Whatever the
So,
glaciers decided to give us.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nuts.
We didn't have any input.
So that's where we are with it, so you can read the report and tie it into this, and so in this,
Which,
we can decide in the
So with-
future. So
With
this
more
is,
investigation, what
we're
you're
gonna do more
saying is we
investigation, so this is a
focus on.
ballpark idea with
This is where we
2020.
focus on the,
We're looking, what I'm gonna present in 2020 for a capital, you can see it, so just to review it real quick, you know the generator is 145,000, we actually did 190 per year for 3 years, 145 is a little lower. To do the equipment for the clarifiers is $430,000, the clarifiers are vintage 1971, you should come down and see them, the centers are gone, and once they go, we're in serious trouble, so I gotta replace them. And it was 0 to 3, we're at the 3rd year, so it's time to replace them. The $100,000, they figured $800,000 to just do the investigation, to investigate it. So that's for the Smiths, the North Boulevard, and the onset. So I put that together, that's there. And that's it, the other area, that $100,000 is done. And so I just wanted to do that, so this needs to get on, this is something we really have to consider doing. And this is all tied into this and other things that are out there, so.
now, if this is all filled up with sand, and we're pumping sand,
Yeah, as the water pumps through it, loses sand with it.
so we're,
So we're eating
ruining our
pipe,
pumps.
and we're eating pumps, we're doing it all,
Okay.
absolutely.
of this over in the Smith area, how much would you say is sump pumps? And how much is just leaking?
40% is sump pumps.
40%?
That's right. So what the sump pump says to us is, when I talk to the 3 consultants, but particularly we're talking about this guy, if you did nothing more than get rid of sump pumps, you're getting rid of 40% of your inflow. It's a huge number. We can line until we're blue in the face and we can correct things. If we don't get rid of sump pumps, we're still gonna get the water. Because as I line pipes, it means they get tighter, that water rises to people's basements, there's sump pumps that are gonna run more. So if we ignore sump pumps, the money we're spending, and we're doing it for I&I and structural, because we have structural issues, so we can't lose sight of that. But we're going to continue to get groundwater through sump pumps.
What's the wastewater situation?
I'm sorry?
What is the wastewater situation, the groundwater,
Infiltration?
the ground, no, the drains, the storm drains situation? Where does that stormwater go?
It goes to the ocean.
Okay,
That's going to be another issue what the town's going to face with the MS4 program.
right, I understand that, I
So
knew
we can-
that's coming, but, I mean, looking at tying this problem in with that problem.
We want to
You
talk,
cannot put the sump pump output into stormwater drains.
well, you can put them in the stormwater drains, and there's communities doing it, but it has to be done once you put treatment into
Okay.
stormwater. That's part of MS4. So as the town handles MS4, which I believe it's going to have to happen within the next year or so, and they're going to have to put, so the whole idea of MS4 is that you can't put stormwater because it runs off roads, you got oil, grease, and bacteria and all that stuff into the ocean, so they're saying you got to treat it. So that means that before your outfall goes into the ocean, you have a treatment system. Once that treatment system is in place, you tie sump pumps into that. That's down the road.
Who does that fall under?
That doesn't fall under us. The
Okay.
storm drains,
Maintenance.
it falls under maintenance. We suggest, I
Does
often
that
take it
mean
over.
they'd have to put in a plant of some type?
So what they do is they put this filtration, different types of filtration, treatment at every outfall in the town of Wareham. That's what that means. And then they gotta
Like-
monitor
Like
it.
a screening thing or something?
Well, there's sand filters,
Okay.
And
Most
they've
of
got
it's soil filter type.
and they're gonna be monitored, they're gonna be tested for removal of nutrients, removal of bacteria, all that stuff, so it's a major testing program.
We had an outline of all of those someplace.
Yeah, how many
Was it
thousands?
40, how many of them?
We're one of the highest towns in the area that have so much outflow
Yeah, I
from
have two right
stormwater
across the street
drains.
from me.
The number of drains we have is
Right.
just
Staggering,
phenomenal. Yeah,
staggering.
there's
But-
no way the town can monitor every one of them.
All right, let's get back to our sump pumps. What can we do?
So we have ordinances in place, and I'll review them with the attorney. In our ordinances, you cannot enter stormwater, it's not just our ordinances, we have it. It's also a requirement of the EPA.
No, I understand all of that,
So
but
we
what
have
can
to,
we do to-
so we have to enforce, we have to find folks. There's all kinds of ways. I can bring you what other communities are doing, and you can look at that and make a decision how you want to.
Yeah, because it's one of those things that we have to give them another method of
Alternative,
dealing with their
exactly.
water that's building up in
That's
their
what I'm looking
cellars.
at.
Put it on the ground, right next to, put it in the ground, that's where it belongs.
So we have them build in dry wells in order
Okay.
to dump the water in there so it filters back through the soil, some of it coming back to the house, but
That's just,
I mean,
whatever they do, because
can you find out what the other towns are doing with this situation? Because you have to say you can't do it, you've gotta give them an alternative to deal with that water.
the alternative is to take it and run it out your window, whatever you want to do.
Well, I've said this
I get
before,
what you're
but-
saying,
You
but
can run it on the
There
lawn.
really
You
isn't
Let it on
any
the lawn.
can't
alternative in
really
some
run it down the
cases.
curb.
no, put it on the lawn. There's an issue here we're losing sight of. As they take that water from their basement and send it to us, that's taken out of the groundwater. That's drinking water.
Yeah.
And so put it back on the ground, so it goes back into the water table and recharge it should stay in
And
the
they're gonna
ground.
see what's gonna come back in, but what,
I
and
understand.
a very
Come back
small
in.
percent will come back to the house, most of it will filter
We'll
out through the
filter out
ground.
through the system, and that's just
That-
how it
Into
happens.
their neighbors,
And if it comes back to their house, they'll pump it back out again,
Into-
wherever it's
into the
going.
neighbor's
So it'd be a
house.
circle. And if they put
especially
a,
so close
most of
together.
it-
It's a vicious cycle because
absolutely.
you
We've
reduce the
been down this road
when you
before.
reduce the concentration, that's where it's going. In other words, when we're working on pipe or a structure in water, we don't pipe where we don't pump from where we're working.
You pump from over here.
We pump from over here. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So you're never gonna change. And it's true, you pump it out, some of it comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Well, down in this particular area,
It's-
these low-lying areas.
But what
And-
the sub pump does is just keep up when you have an event.
Mhm.
That's it, that's it. It's not efficient.
No, and
You put your cellar too deep.
I was
for
gonna
the
say,
area.
wasn't there any building codes that said how deep your
No.
cellar could go with a water
No.
table?
Back in the day,
Back
people
in
would
the
go
day.
to the water table. We used to put septics to the water table, because it goes away. Out of sight, out of mind, water table, who cares about water? Now we're realizing that we shot ourselves in the foot many times, and we're running to water I mean, we don't acknowledge it, but we're running into where water is gonna be such a commodity
Yeah.
that it's gonna be
I did a house
expensive.
over in Blackmore Pond, and I took a shot on the pond for elevation when it was relatively high. Never got water till that big event we had, where you were having trouble, and it was only a little bit. It would come up in the sump, would never go over, but it did that time. Couldn't keep up.
It's crazy.
That was a crazy event.
The event was crazy. It just blew us away. We've seen things that we've never seen. We're petrified. So to answer your question, we should sit down with our attorney. Review the policies we have in place. We've got fine mechanisms, all that's in place. Let's see what's available to us, and you guys can weigh it out and see what you truly want to do. But we have to address it. We cannot ignore it. I'll get you what other communities are doing, what they're doing how they're handling it. And so we'll look at others, and then we'll figure out where you want to go with it.
Well, and when you do your line.
how do we enforce it?
You find people, I guess.
How do we find the people? Find.
So that's an entry program. You hire a company, and they actually knock on doors, do an entry program.
Can we do that?
Absolutely. It's in our bylaws. When you tie the sewer, you've
So we
agreed to
can-
let somebody come in and check it. You've agreed to it.
We
It's in our
can-
bylaws.
We can legally do this dye testing.
It's in our bylaws, absolutely. We have right to enter in because we're protecting our infrastructure. We have that right. The question becomes, you'll hear from somebody say, well, this is my castle, my rights, and so that's where the lawyer comes, that's how we do that. Because other communities are doing it. And so obviously there's a mechanism
Well, I
for it.
told you at the last meeting that I spoke with somebody that had a sump pump, and I asked him where your discharge, and he did not know. And I think there's going to be a lot of people like that. They bought the house, the sump pump was there, and they have no clue.
That's right.
Bought the
People
house
just-
with a pool
Absolutely.
on the line.
We had a guy come in yesterday. This is a funny story. So he sells a house. He bought a house. It's one in Swiss Beach that's been years being rehabbed. He finally bought it. He finished rehabbing it. It's on the market, sells it to this young lady. She's a sergeant in the Navy, and she buys the house. She's here part-time. All of a sudden, she moves in full-time. Her house is backed up with sewer. She's freaking out, so she calls. They send her road, sends a camera, says, oh, there's this big plank in your sewer. So what happened is back in 2010, they did a cut and cap. They cut it and cap it because they would rehab the house. We took them off sewer, they didn't pay sewer. So when they put it all back together, they never connected it. So this poor lady's backing up. So all of a sudden, contractors get involved. So this problem becomes a $6,000 problem. And I said to the contractor, and I said to the homeowner, he come crying, I said, listen, so you bought the problem, didn't you do your diligence? It's out there. You see, everybody knew this, it just wasn't transferred. This poor young lady buys the house, she's in trouble, and she's gonna spend this money because she owns the house now. It's been historical. And so people don't know, people don't do the homework. When they buy a house, they just buy it.
Where would she have gone to find out that it had been stopped for
Not her,
construction?
It's up to her lawyer and the agents and all the people, because what happens is seller's
Well,
responsible
I
to,
didn't,
so that doesn't happen.
the buyer had people who didn't do their due diligence to find that
That's what I'm
information, to find out where the sump pump goes?
Absolutely. We have, and again, we have a lady that's got a pool on our
Well,
easement.
I think the
She
question
bought it
Sandy's asking is, who knows where the sump pump goes? Where is that recorded?
Well, you just visually see it, because it goes to the pipe.
Okay, there it is, I see it. And there's the pipe, and it goes up and it goes through my foundation.
Then, so you go to the foundation, and it doesn't go into the sewer, you say, okay, it's going to the
How
ground.
do you know?
That's
If
just-
How do
you're
you know
sitting
where
there
it goes?
looking at it, how do you know where it
Where's it
discharges?
recorded?
It's not recorded, because remember, people are doing this illegally, but you
Well,
can see.
that's the point we're trying to get at.
Yep,
That some of these people just, the only way we're going to find out is to dye test them.
is to get in there, absolutely. I know where you're coming, I
And put
get
a-
where you're coming from, I do.
Put
But
a camera
But remember,
in the pipe waiting for the dye to come through.
we'll just take them to the manhole, it has to flow, we'll watch it come in.
Oh, we can do that when we're lining the pipes. We know where some of them came in when we lined the pipes.
So let me tell you
We
the
saw
other.
what, 3 to 5 homes?
Just going crazy.
$18,000, wasn't it?
It blew up
Because
the-
they were
blew up
coming
the
in
lining.
before the epoxy was setting.
Blow up the lining. The other thing is, we do a smoke test, they'll fill the house with smoke. Because see, the idea when you do your, and this is really critical, when you do your plumbing, you vent it, right? Everything's tied to the vent. When we do a smoke test, it comes out the vent. So we can see that. So if we have a house in a sewer area and there's no smoke coming out the vent, there's a problem. Either they never connected to sewer, or they're venting into the house because they put illegal sump or illegal plumbing. And so all that comes to light. And so part of the process is smoking everywhere.
So
do
we
smoke
have
tests.
6,000 users, of which every one of them could be one type of problem or
Or
another,
another.
right?
And so now how you find is by smoking, all these problems become self-evident.
But then that doesn't come cheap.
Nothing's cheap, but we have
So
to,
we have to find who's causing the problem and then work from there.
and what we're really trying to do is find out the problem to the system. All these other ancillary things that people are doing contribute, we need to find the problem. Where's the weakness in the system? Where are we getting things that we're not supposed to be getting in?
Yeah,
That's
fresh
the thing.
water.
Fresh water. Why are we getting it in? Is there leaks? Because it'll even show the leaks. If you've got a bad cleanup, it shows, everything will be showing. So we say, okay, here's our issues. Now we know what to attack. And that's what this is all about. And same thing with knocking on doors. If somebody has a basement, I walked Hamilton Beach, knocked on doors, and not one person has a sump pump, but they have basements. I said, sir, the groundwater is 4 or 5 feet here, your basement's 6 feet, but we don't get any water. We don't have
There's
sump pumps.
something wrong.
Absolutely. They all have sump pumps. But no, because, you know, it's one of those things when you're asking a question, people are nervous, they believe there's a penalty. I don't want to penalize anybody, I just want to get it out of the system. And we'll work with them, but, you know, again, so I think you said earlier, in your yard, you dig a little hole, put some stone, put it in there, it leaches down, it goes, yeah, percent's gonna come back, but you get it out of the sewer system. Because the problem, as all sewer users, if we pollute that river because we blow up those basins, the costs are gonna be astronomical that we're all gonna have to share.
But I mean, right back to the thing, we need to get rid of sump pumps, we know that, we've known that right along. We've got, right now, it's even becoming a bigger issue than we thought it was before, and we knew it was a big issue then. The problem that we're facing to a degree, we are, is we go up to Peter's house, he doesn't have a sump pump, oh yeah, he does have a sump pump, where does it go? I don't know, well, it goes to the sewer, well, we don't want it there, so you need to put it in your yard. Well, I got a small yard, what do I do? The option, obviously, as Sandy indicated, is dig a dry well and put it in.
And it
But-
takes what it can.
But that's, the point I'm getting at is, I think when we start doing this hard, is we need to have those alternatives for the particular homeowner. Okay, this is what you need to do in order to be able to prevent it. Otherwise, this is what's gonna happen.
Do we, if we
But
find
we've gotta
it,
give them an
if we
alternative.
find them with a sump pump going into the sewer, can we double their EDU?
We should charge them accordingly, we can maybe, and
just-
that's in the fine, there's gonna be a
Just saying,
penalty.
there has to, there,
Well, what I'm
I know
saying
what
is
you're
you gotta
getting at,
give-
I've said all of this before.
You gotta give an
I wasn't here
alternative,
to
that's
hear
an
it.
alternative.
You can pay for
You
it.
That's an
can.
alternative.
You can, but we don't want the water.
no, we don't want the water.
But no, I thought you told me
Don't
that we
lose-
weren't allowed to do that.
Don't lose sight of the fact that it's illegal. The EPA, DEP says it's illegal, it's gotta come out. We don't have to say, we'll charge you for it.
Okay,
That
so
can't be an
there's no
option.
alternative.
We can
You
use
have
it
to
as a
stop.
fine premise, but we can't say, you know what, you can leave it and pay for it, because it's illegal.
Yep.
Right.
It's not allowed.
We still need to give them an option.
And I would suggest to put it in their lawn.
That's fine, put it in the
That's
dry
one
well.
option. Put it in the dry well. Those are
Same
options.
difference, but I'm
Yes.
just saying, we need to give them specifically an option.
As long as it doesn't go down the
As
down
stormwater.
the-
Oh, we're talking about
That's-
getting it out, that's the bottom line, is
Yep.
getting rid of the sump pump into the sewer system, period, that's the only discussion. Now we want you to stop doing it, here's what you have to do. Otherwise, your fine is gonna start right away.
Well, what type of fine?
That's where we need
Up to
now.
$300 today, it's in our
Now,
bylaws.
what we
You can read
need
it.
to do is to get our meeting, get our options, what we need to do and get a plan, have a meeting with the attorney here, and decide what we can do fining wise.
And
You
an
can write
estimated
anything in the
of what
world
it
you
would
want
cost.
down. You can write anything in the world you want down for
I,
fines.
I still have a
We
thing.
have to enforce these things, and how are they gonna be enforced? That's what we don't have a good answer at the
And
moment.
I still have a thing about that $18,000 bill.
The what?
That $18,000 bill for the damage the pumps did, we need a vehicle to be able to hand that
To the homeowner?
charge
And
right
they
to the
pay- they
homeowner. Here
split
you
the-
go,
They
man.
pay the
Yeah.
cost.
You're getting this. And I don't know if we can legally do that now.
Don't,
We
we've
need a
got
policy.
bits and
We can look into it.
pieces,
The
and
attorney
we
will give
don't
us
have a
direction
plan.
We need something.
Absolutely.
We need
Because
the
it's gonna
plan
happen.
before we worry
I don't wanna
about
see
the
those
little
change
nickel
When
orders.
dime
we give
stuff.
them the alternatives, we have to give them an estimated cost of each one of those alternatives. What will it cost to do a
It's
dry
not our
well?
problem.
That part
It's
is-
not our problem, it's their problem.
But when we say you have an alternative, a dry well,
Depends on their contractor.
Yeah, it's not our, it's,
Whether
to
they dig the
Okay.
hole,
your
put it in,
point,
or
it's
they
not our
put-
problem. We tell them
but
remove
they
it.
have to
That's a-
pipe it from the house to the dry
That's their
well,
problem.
That's
dig the
their
dry well.
problem.
Okay,
But
so,
they can do it with a garden hose.
And flexible hoses, all kinds of ways to do it. We have to
Like
be
a
careful
sub-
telling them
garden.
what to do, because then we assume responsibility of what to tell them to do.
Okay.
We gotta tell them, move it from the sewer, remove it from the sewer.
there are some alternatives available, and these are what we have found. But you have to get it out of the
Get it
sewer.
out of the sewer. It's not
I'd
telling
stay
them
away
they're-
from the alternatives.
Yeah, we can't tell them what to
Just get
do.
it out of our system, period. It's your problem, it's your water.
Granted, a couple meetings ago at the selectmen's meeting, one of our selectmen say we have to give them a solution.
We don't have to give them
I'm
the
just-
I
solution.
know-
I'm
and-
sorry, I'm quoting something I heard at a selectmen's
No,
meeting.
I'm not disagreeing, so.
I
the
really
rest-
So
don't-
we have to be able to counter that selectman saying that.
Well,
Go
I'll
to the
tell you what,
EPA
every
website.
solution you have mentioned won't work in some cases.
No, it will not.
So send them to the EPA website.
So
the EPA
then why do
website.
we have to
It's
give them the
addressed.
solution?
It's addressed.
I'm just telling you what I heard
I-
at
I-
a
Well,
meeting.
I hear that, yeah, I get where you're coming from, because we always worry about what people, we don't want to impact people's lives, but we're impacting the sewer. And that impacts people that don't have sump pumps, they're paying for it. So you've got, let's say you've got 5% of the people with sump pumps, the other 95% are paying for it. Because we're all sharing the cost of the repercussions of those sump pumps, and that's fair. We're telling them to get up, that's not fair, but it's fair to the
So
95% that's not doing
The EDU
it.
is based on the cost of running the plant. The cost of running the plant is increased by almost this 40% of this sump pump input.
Electricity, that's right, electricity,
All the
chemicals.
stuff, all the stuff that's associated
tied
because you're
in.
processing product you don't need to.
Don't need to. And so 95%, if that's a number, 95% are they're paying for 5% of the people that are contributing. And we call that fair. We don't want to hurt the people, but yet the other 95% just keep paying and be good. That doesn't make, for me, it doesn't make sense. So we have to figure it out.
I know why you're concerned, but I think we have to identify who "we" is.
Exactly.
Who is "we"
Did-
that's gonna
That's right.
give?
All your arguments
It's
that
not
I
us,
brought up
that's what we're
last
saying.
time.
It's not us.
It's not us.
I understand
I wasn't
how the
very
selectmen,
Oh, it's
For
not,
whoever is
it
feeling.
basically comes down to it's not our problem.
but it's not us, because I think we're opening ourselves up to something we're not, it's not our jurisdiction, number one.
So we
I
can't
gave
put a
the-
deadline in place?
Our jurisdiction ends with get the pump, get the sump pump
Move
off
it
of our
up.
system.
I
Our
tend to
system,
agree with that.
that's where our system, that's where it ends.
It's just as you said, when you dewater, you dewater.
Oh, yeah.
If you have to run the pump and it's just
It
flowing
is,
right
it's
back
just
into
a
your basement,
stopgap,
then you
it is
just,
not a solution, it's a stopgap to
and
minimize.
it would be wonderful
the
if we could
damage.
give them a solution, but we can't.
Mitigate.
Well, I think what we need to have a meeting.
But we can go knock on doors and do dye testing now.
We have a policy in place, and before I do anything, I want to sit down with an attorney to make sure it's there. It's our rights, but let's make sure that it's.
Now,
I don't want to.
when you knocked
we have
on the
a-
doors in Hamilton Beach and they said they had a basement and they had no water, can you say, may I look?
I could, I didn't, but I could have. I could say, listen, can I take a peek? I could have. And what's helped me a lot is people call me and say they got water pouring in because of the storms. Because one of the things that I'm finding that's really interesting, years ago,
You.
I'll tell you why. Because there's a sewer pipe comes out of the house.
Who's we?
And when they tie them in, they put stone. What does stone do? It's a wick. Water
That's a wick.
follows it.
That's a wick.
It goes to the foundation. There's a pipe that comes to the foundation. It seeps in there, goes on the sewer pipe, falls in the ground, so then they think they have a sewer problem. They don't, they have a groundwater problem.
Yeah.
And so that gets me in the basement. And I said, well, I'll take a peek for you. Gee, 'cause, no, you can see it, it's water, and you got the
We
stone.
get into bad soils and high water, and we stone
That
under the
would cause the
foundations,
gas
Uh-huh.
explosion.
and it's a wick.
Same
And if you
thing,
go
same
back to
thing.
do work on that building, you disturb the soil next to the footing, I've had it come over it. What the heck is
It's a
going on?
wick.
That's what it
water
does.
And so what I've said, when I started doing sewer here, I said, you don't put stone within 10 feet of the foundation. Before it was right to the foundation, put all the stone to the foundation. You stop at 10 feet. You stop that wick.
Yeah.
Don't allow it to get into the foundation, because it's gonna find, it's gonna seep in.
Well, what we typically do is we'll stone the footing drain, but it's lower than the elevation of the floor. That's where the stone stops. Then you either put fabric, in the old days we put hay over it, then you put typical soil to the lot.
Jimmy,
And
why
then
do
make
we
sure
need
it's
to
loam
speak to the
to shed the
lawyer if
water.
we've already got a policy and we have fines in place?
Yeah.
Because we got the one little thing called enforcement.
Yeah, and
That doesn't
again,
exist anymore.
Okay.
and Peter, to Jim's point, we need to, every time we do something, we wanna make sure we're right. And so it's good to get it reviewed by attorney. I never put out a contract or even, until I talk to the attorney. Anything I do, I call the attorney and say, listen, I'm gonna send you what I'm looking to do. I feel comfortable that there's a set of eyes that has a legal mind on it, because I don't wanna hurt anybody. I wanna protect our system, but I don't wanna hurt anybody by doing something stupid. Our attorney helps us stay out of stupidity. And so we should just run it by him, and he'll give us the advice we need to make sure what we're doing is right. That's my opinion.
Well, the
That's
good
all
thing,
I'm
the
trying to do.
upshot of this is you
Who
know
gets
the
the
areas
fine?
you need to concentrate on
Absolutely.
right now.
Absolutely, this is a good thing.
And if you
You
work
want
on
this
those
one?
areas and you're setting a precedent, some of that's gonna spill over into the other areas. You're gonna reduce it townwide.
So if I
You're
look
gonna
at
say,
my
hey.
contract for sewer, I will see that there is in there that you have permission, that you have a right to come into my house.
It's in the bylaws.
Oh, so it's not in the contract that I signed when I got my
No,
sewer?
because you don't have a contract, you have a contract with the contractor, you don't contract with us. But the
But how many
bylaws,
people know the bylaws?
probably nobody
It's on the
looks at them.
website.
It's on the website, but nobody looks at them. You know, it's funny, I have this conversation, Jim made some valid points, and I say to him, I said, Jim, when are we gonna hold people responsible for their own lives? We don't. If you need to find something, you do the research. Oh, nobody told me. Did you look?
Sounds like Facebook.
No, I didn't wanna look. No,
Did you
we have a
read what you signed?
responsibility.
What you agreed to?
Just like the people that
Can you
want
click?
notices within half mile of a
We own you,
oyster
we own
farm,
all your information, your
because they
pictures,
didn't
everything.
read papers. Never
We're,
mind.
we're,
No,
you're
I'm not reading
we're
that.
responsible
Agree.
to find things out.
12 pages of
That's,
stuff,
it's crazy, but
or 15.
anyway, so you're right, Malcolm, you're absolutely right. This is a good guide, this is a focus area, and I think we need to focus on it. And it'll help us get rid of some of the costs.
So let's start there
Also.
with it.
I'm
Let's
gonna,
find out where to go.
we're gonna stop playing with this, we'll talk to the attorney, but we need this.
Instead of,
I wanted to bring it to your
How do
attention.
you
Start
get the
right there.
sand out of the pipes?
I've gotta go back to them out. I'm
You have a method. Oh, that's right, Jim, I remember,
We have a little bit.
We're gonna wash it out with the sump pumps.
there you go.
I remember something, a vacuum thingy on the capital plan, so that's what
Yes.
they're,
That's
so
what it
you
was there
can
for.
remove the sand that's around the Onset Pier one.
Yes.
When, okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
we're gonna set it up
I have the
with
same thing as Swiss Beach.
town council.
They're English
Then we can
pipes,
find
they
out
know what you're saying.
who gets the fine and how much we
Yeah,
get.
that's exactly right.
All right, great, wonderful.
It's everywhere.
Let's go past that.
You go, Pete.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, I think that's all I have. I could find some more if you give me a minute.
Well,
No,
No, that's okay.
you're done.
somebody said 5 minutes, where is it?
Yeah, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guy. Okay, just as a carry-on, you know, for unfinished business, one of the items for sump pumps, I think we just covered that pretty well, so that's
Yeah, we got that covered.
pretty well covered. The other is 2, 4, and 6, that you
Well, two,
comfortable
four,
with that?
yes,
Or not?
2, 4, and 6. Basically, all it comes down to is 2 and 4 say the same thing. 2 is residential and 4 is commercial. If we just take either one of them and take all of the wording that's in there is fine, and just say it's the policy for connecting two force mains, period.
Period.
because I
And
honestly,
the
I
only-
compared one to the other, and I didn't find many words different between
No,
a
that's
commercial
Read
and
'em.
residential.
Read 'em.
Just a little
Yeah,
bit.
I didn't find,
Basically, Sandy, what we're
That's
trying
right.
to do is get rid
So
of
the
the
only-
excess number of policies and cut them down to
What I did is-
workable number.
I held them up against the window.
Look, just so you're aware, the only difference is commercial requires dual and residential single.
And the only other thing 6 adds is changes the number from 1,000 to 1,500.
So I have a problem
Now,
with that.
just one thing that I asked you about last time, and I thought we agreed that we wanted to say something along the lines of, if you take policy 4, item 6, the applicant, the application and the fee and all of that, we wanted to add that the amount of the bond will be figured at that point, that time. We want to make sure they understand a bond is required.
Because that's right, when you start,
But
when you, that's, I
also,
agree with
one
you.
other thing that's never mentioned in here is the contractors.
It's the contractor that's bonded.
Right, but do we accept all contractors?
No, there's a licensing process. They have to be licensed with the town of Wareham, and we vet them out. When somebody applies for license here with us, we vet them, we call people that they've done
Okay,
business
so
with. this-
should that be there too in item 6?
It should be a licensed contractor by the town of Wareham. I agree with you, it should be in there.
And I'll put that right in there at the same time, and
Please.
the amount of the bond will be, okay, I'll
That
write
sounds
this
good.
up and I'll get it over to Rebecca,
And she'll
and
type
we'll
it
have
up
it
for
for
you.
next time.
Okay.
And then somebody sees something more.
No, that's good.
Okay, so that'll take care of 2, 4, and 6.
You said 6 said something about 1,500, I thought it said 1,000, or did I misread it?
It was changed to 15 because there's a
If you
policy.
look
that
policy-
When I
changes.
look at 6, my copy I have says 1,000.
But that's been changed to 1,500. Where's the other plans? I don't know where it is, I'm sorry. It was changed to $1,500 for,
Yeah, it was.
and that's for reviewing the plans,
It was changed to 1,500.
to review the plans. Yes.
Oh,
So that's what.
Okay, so all I'm doing is, on either 2 or 4, I'm just changing the 1,000 to the 1,500, and that'll eliminate policy 6.
Okay.
All right. So we're all set on that. I will have that finalized for next meeting.
Okay.
Put it back on, finalized. Tie and bond, I think we might have almost covered them. Did you have anything specific more on them?
No, just, again, reiterate, as I talked to Mike, we discussed it, so Yes, and just so you're all clear, water usage is pretty easy to get, generally speaking, not specific. And we have some real numbers when we did Onset and Wareham a few years ago. He's gonna try to work around those numbers and apply them to realistic EDUs.
Okay.
And so it'll be a good deal, and also be scales, EDU 1, EDU 2, depending on if it's commercial. So he's gonna try to make it more equitable for everyone, and make sure, and also make sure that, and he's also, he's making sure we have revenues to run the facility and revenues to invest in the capital for future. So all that's gonna be incorporated. And he's
Not
working with our
against
CIP
what we call
people.
trending. I'm not against trying to use that.
So
As far as actual readings,
we'd never get them.
it's not
And
gonna
so
happen.
we're gonna work it into EDU, so yes, and that's, I'm pretty excited about that. Now, as soon as I get it within the month, I'll
And I
get
know
the
how you're
draft to
feeling,
all
it's
of
time to
you.
move this on.
Yep, and we'll draft it, and we can review the draft.
Been
and move
going
it.
on too long.
You're right. Okay,
Somebody will be,
anybody
fair
have,
to somebody anyhow.
anyone have anything else they'd like to?
Meeting dates and times, meeting dates.
Well, looking at what we're doing for May, why don't we go first and third Thursday in May? Because-
What about the 17th?
That's special.
That's
That's
the
a special.
That's the third.
That's the third? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Or do you wanna call it a special? Have
I mean,
it
if
2
we-
and 4th and have it the special on the 3rd.
It's up to you, because that's one item is on it, so you can, it's up, whatever your board pleases, I'll do whatever.
Depends on how often you guys wanna come out of the house.
It's May. You don't mind coming out anymore.
May, but once, the bass are coming, once they're thick. Good luck. My electrician went turkey hunting, he's nowhere to be found, you know what I mean?
Could he go on Great Neck Road?
Oh, that's why I don't
No.
have more turkeys.
He could've gone on Great Neck
No,
Road
he's
for quite a while
hunting
with a net.
Connecticut,
Oh.
actually.
No.
So,
I'm just
so
as bad as
what did we decide? When's the meeting?
All right,
I don't mind having a meeting dedicated just to these guys.
okay, we'll stay at it,
So
the second
we can
and
just focus on that, and
fourth
maybe,
for next month, and the 17th
You know what
will
I'm
be a
saying?
special.
because I always
And then
feel,
What-
I think it's important, and I always feel a little bit jammed up if you throw them in a regular meeting. I
I
want to be
agree.
able to focus on it.
Fine,
And it'll be a short meeting, really.
yep.
Could do it in an
Okay,
hour.
Because to your point, I've
May
always
second
used to
and
hear,
fourth Thursday,
give me the
and
condensed
the
version.
17th,
I'll just put in for the overtime, right?
special.
Now, I thought we weren't gonna come in this room until the 1st of July. What happened?
I don't know.
Well, tonight.
Is this where we're gonna meet now?
There was a mix-up in the office on the availability of the room over there. So,
Is the school committee in there
School
now?
committee, That's my understanding.
no, that's,
Who's in there?
marijuana's in there.
You mean they're smoking it, or
They're growing it.
No.
they're growing it?
Yeah, it's a growth
I was
license.
looking for it,
What
because
stops
my
us
notes
from
said it was
meeting
at
at the
town
plant? The
hall. It didn't
cameras
say
and the recording
multi-service
and all
center.
I'm sorry?
What stops us from meeting at the plant, the recording and the,
There's nothing, because this can be done at the plant. I don't know what stops us. We could look at that, something like that. I don't know.
Doing the trailer?
We could. It isn't like we have
we
large
should go down there.
audiences.
That way there, if something comes up, we can go for a tour
Walk.
and then get
Definitely
used to
walk
it
and see it.
and become more familiar with the plant, unless you guys are against it,
Well,
I don't know.
it's gonna depend on what he can do.
We'll ask the TV company what's available and what we
Yeah,
can do.
they can do that.
Absolutely.
Well, I know when I was gonna do the COA, Steve told me all I had to do was come over, take a 30-minute course, and set up the camera. And when we get finished, just check the camera back in, and he'd make a disc for us, and bang, it was done.
Yeah, there's all kinds of possibilities. You can look into how you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can look
That's
at
what
it.
we're talking
That's an option we can look at.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's,
There's a thing, Sandy, called law of
7:32.
averages. You ever hear that law of averages? So you can't please all the